Someone inside Anthropic got switched to adaptive reasoning mode.
Essentially what happened is they published in an NPM archive all of the files, some type of API or something. It's supposed to be ignored. Whoops.
Yeah, there's some commentary where people share some concerns about what's actually going on.
I love the idea of unrestricted access to these models, or at least not putting a layer between me and the model and telling me what I can and can't do.
I think that's going to be fascinating as well, to see the jailbreaks that come out of it, you know? So if you just woke up, let me catch you up on the Claude Code leak. And he's saying this is conjecture, but I think it's basically following the story of the tweets, like this guy, I think he's Korean. Basically, he was at a hackathon. He was tired after running 2 hackathons in San Francisco, and he saw the leak. And so he made this all happen. But what was the leak? Someone inside Anthropic got switched to adaptive reasoning mode. Okay, let's start there. Does anyone know what that actually means? I'm assuming that is like a Claude Code Opus mode. We could Google it. Claude Code adaptive reasoning mode. Committed the .map file of Claude Code. All right, Ron, what's the .map file? You know what this stuff is.
Yeah, well, I don't know what the .map is in this specific instance, but essentially what happened is they published in an NPM archive all of the files, and it was supposed to be excluded when they were making whatever the push was. Maybe it's some type of a package or some type of API or something. But yeah, and then they, because they supposed to be ignored, it didn't get ignored, and whoops.
Okay, so adaptive thinking, this is what I want to kind of figure out is like, why did Claude just switch to Sonnet and leak the .map file? So both the models will do adaptive thinking. Okay, it's the recommended way to use extended thinking. Instead of manually setting a thinking token budget, adaptive thinking lets Claude dynamically determine when and how much to use extended thinking based on the complexity of each request. All right, so yeah, like in Claude Code, you set your effort level, right? And I normally have mine set to high, especially lately, because I'm not doing that much work, so I want to just have the best thinking, but it does use up tokens. So I'm just curious what that means. Like, what did it think more and decide, hey, we need to commit the .map file, this is important? So I don't know. I don't know what to make of why the adaptive reasoning mode is so important. Maybe we can find it in the comments here. So it effectively leaked the entire Claude Code source code. So let's talk about what that means. In AI Captains, we talk about harnesses and rigs as workspaces to use within Claude Code, or rather as workspaces for Claude Code to work within. But really, Claude Code itself is a harness for the LLMs. And that's why it's so powerful, because it is a whole structure of code saying, hey, do this, do that, blah, 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 blah. And we will explore it today, what exactly that kind of means. But that's why Claude Code is so good, is because it has that harness, so to speak, all wrapping the LLM itself. So yes, the LLMs themselves are powerful, but Claude Code is such an epic tool because of all the extras that's not directly related to the actual LLM. It's an NPM package, it's all TypeScript, and so it's actually code running in your terminal. So it leaked all that. And this comes only after, what, a few weeks? Sliny the Liberator, we see the system prompt for Claude Opus and all that. So now we have the system prompts for all these big frontier models, and now we have the entire Claude Code source code, thanks to this guy in Korea. So rules in Korea are different. He cloned the repo. He went to sleep. Okay, so this is apparently an important part of the story. He was tired, and then he went to sleep after cloning it. He wakes up to 25,000 stars and his girlfriend begging him to take it down. She's a copyright lawyer. How this guy knows about the guy's girlfriend, I don't know. Is it here in here? This guy seems to just kind of tweet gibberish here. I don't see anything about the Claude Code thing. Let's check this one out. What did he post here? Okay, so there we got the orchestration concept. What's important here is he rewrote this in Python. So he rewrote all of Claude Code, or he had the AI turn it into Python. So from TypeScript to Python. And apparently, this is more legal. I don't really know how that works from a copyright perspective. They rewrote it in Python. He got to South Korea. Not sure how that's relevant. One of the guys decides Python is slow, is now rewriting all of it into Rust. So now we have Claude Code in all these different languages and all these different repos. And Anthropic, okay, so this is where I left off a few days ago, and I haven't seen any updates on it yet. But because Claude Code, and I have another tweet about this, does any of it violate copyright? According to Anthropic itself, their devs do not write any code by hand. And this has been part of their marketing. Claude Code is so amazing. Opus is so amazing. It's writing all our code. And I think there was one case so far in the US, I think there's here in a comment somewhere, that, yeah, hard to say without more court cases. It already went to the Supreme Court on artwork. They declined to take a case where a programmer created code to create artwork with AI, and that programmer wanted to claim copyright in the artwork it created. So that line was drawn. And I also know when you use AI services like Suno, things like that, it's more complicated to get the rights to the actual music because it all is sampled from, you know, millions of pieces of music around the human collective creative consciousness out on the web. And then Suno just puts it together for you. You could look it up real quick, suno.ai. But I do know that it is more complicated. Has anyone messed around with that, making music?
I have. It's interesting. Well, it evolves too. When I first used it a number of months ago, it wasn't as good or interesting. And now it seems to be a little bit more interesting. But I've just used the free plan. So, but they have a studio feature and all of that type of stuff. So I bet you can get pretty intricate here.
Yeah, no, I know. And I've taken a few because I'm like a singer-songwriter guy. I'm not much of a performer, but I have a lot of songs that I'm proud of. I feel like I'm a good songwriter. And I've recorded demos and, you know, they were all right, but they were never professionally done or anything. Like I said, I've never been much of a performer. I just never entered that realm. But we popped them into Suno, some of my demos, and it just made these epic tracks. And I'm like, yes, this is it. I feel like it's like Broadway or something. Okay, so here it says commercial rights to your songs. So as a paid Suno subscriber, they're yours to keep and do whatever you want. Okay, so that's updated from the last I looked into all this. I remember probably a year ago, the licensing was more complicated. You didn't get commercial use rights right away, or you had to pay a lot more. So apparently Suno figured that out, and maybe that's why they're becoming the standard. So anyway, AI generated code is not copyrightable under US law. So that's where they are right now. That's the current state of AI regulation, I guess. So that means that Anthropic can't use DMCA to take it down. Say, hey, that's our code, that's our company's code, it's proprietary IP. You have to take it down and like legally like take this South Korean guy to court or whatever. I think the repo rewrote the code using Python, so it violates no copyright. So maybe that's what this turns into, is the TypeScript source code they might have a claim over. But the new repos in Python and Rust, they would not. I mean, I would really like to know, is this repo still up? It's still up. Claude Code, the repo temporarily locked in ownership transfer. We maintain work here. Wow, 161,000 stars already. It beat OpenClaw. What a time. What a time. Better harness tools, not merely storing the archive of leaked. Okay, so they're just developing this into their own thing now. And then there's a Rust port here. Claude Code parody. What is this one? Oh yeah, there's the backstory. 4 a.m. notifications. Claude Code source has been leaked. He used Oh My Codex, a workflow layer built on top of OpenAI's Codex. He used T mode and Ralph mode. Wow. So he used like the maximum. This guy knows what he's doing with AI development, huh?
That's wild. This will be interesting to see how this works out in the end. I'm all for better tools. Let's go.
Yeah, and I want to start talking about that in a minute. I kind of just want to know where we're at now. So these are all online. It cannot be taken down. See here. You can imagine Anthropic being in a pickle. Do they leave this, look the other way, ignoring it? Or do they claim copyright applies? But this could be bad for their own business in bigger ways because they've been saying Claude Code, like AI, is generating all of it. So lawsuits against AI labs could spike, etc. So this guy believes, and this was a few days ago, that number one happens, do they look the other way and they ignore it? It's funny, man. Anthropic is like kind of having it rough lately with the US government stuff. And personally, I think this is a great boon to the world for this to go, I mean, open source, I guess, because it's such a powerful tool. And granted, OpenClaw is powerful too, and we're just going to see more and more powerful harnesses. But I still think Claude Code is and has been the GOAT all this time. And there's a reason we all keep using it. I would argue maybe Cursor. I think Cursor kind of gives it a run for its money. I've been using Cursor again lately, and it's extremely fast and powerful and doesn't bother you with permission requests as much. Yeah, I would argue Cursor might be the only other one that compares with Claude Code. But so let's start there. Does anyone have any thoughts on what this can mean for the future of agentic frameworks? Anthropic is probably frustrated by this, but in the grand scheme of things, I feel like this is kind of like a DeepSeek moment. Remember when DeepSeek R2 was released, open source, and it was supposedly all powerful, and people were like, this is it, like there's a chance, there's hope that we can have open source stuff and we don't need to rely on big corporations for this technology, for this new wave of technology. So for me, I kind of put it in that same basket. Like, okay, now this is open source. We have the system prompts from Pliny the Liberator. It's just like, all right, do they slowly become irrelevant? I mean, these companies have all the money to train the models, so we don't want them to go irrelevant, so to speak. I mean, I would rather see that money go to open source models, but even Gemma 4 was just released. Anyway, this is where my head is. So maybe we can just start discussing this and have some thought experiments here. Ron, do you want to start us off?
Yeah, I think in the end, it'll be healthy for it'll probably be healthy for the industry, I guess, if you want to put it that way. I think it'll build in more competition. I think that maybe it'll even force other vendors and other providers to just have a better product. Maybe it levels the playing field right this instant. I think that there's still a lot of opportunity to iterate and, just make services and make products better. I think until we have a lot more energy available at a much lower price, it's going to be difficult to put some of these guys out of business because it's really difficult to get performance at home at a reasonable price.
And training them.
What was helpful for me was to understand that this is source code for the CLI tool, right? There was no database breach, no credentials, no conversations from users. It's not the LLM itself. There's a whole range of technology that's still in play. It's the software that runs the things and that we use to access the LLMs. I think what will come out of it is, as people are looking into it, they're looking at, what are the things that are embedded in that code that even Anthropic hasn't let out yet, isn't available to us yet. And so folks are beginning to look at the different things that could be helpful in building one's own system because they see it now, what was in development in different ways in which Claude Code was doing that. One example is just their memory system and the way it interacts with memory and the process it goes through. Those are things that we can take a look at and then use in putting together our own systems in how we use the information.
Definitely. And I think that's actually a good segue. So yeah, as part of this leak, there's some commentary where people share some concerns about what's actually going up in there. Here is the memory system. So manual write on user request, auto dream, background consolidation, extract memories, per turn capture. Then we got a MEMORY.md, layer 1, always in context. We have topic files, MD files, loaded on demand. So that's kind of what, like, would that be skills? And not sure. Session transcripts, grepped but never fully read. So that's just what stays on your computer, I believe. And that's why if you look in I'm on a Mac, but I looked in my application support Claude folder the other day, or Claude Code. It's like 20 gigabytes because it's just storing stuff like this. And then consolidation lock, I'm not sure what that is either. So then the MEMORY.md gets loaded into the system prompt. It gets injected there. And then the topic files, which, it sounds like they're kind of things to skills or subagents. Those get injected on demand. and then it'll search transcripts when it needs to. I wonder if that's new. I don't specifically recall my experience with Claude Code, like having a big memory of all the different things I'm doing. But that said, now that I think about it, sometimes it seems to have magically more context about my work than it should. I know back in the day, I think Claude Sonnet 4.5 is where we were at when I started AI Captains and building the brand. By Sonnet 4.7, I could chat and it would already know about AI Captains and it would have these assumptions. But that was still before I used Claude Code. So these days I use Claude Code and I notice that it remembers things about my work and I just figured, oh, it's trained into the model. But now I wonder, maybe not all of it is trained into the model and it's actually just reading that layer 3, the session transcript. So that's interesting. Hey, real quick, if you are liking this conversation and you want to be a part of conversations like this, most importantly, come check out the AI Captains Academy, which is on School. And we have calls like this twice a week. We try to record them at least once a week. And we want to have a mastermind where people that are interested in AI and how it affects us as humans, as builders, as creatives, how this is affecting our society. We just show up and we talk about this stuff. It's a cool group of guys and you're totally invited to come check us out. There's a free 7-day trial so you can join one of these calls and see if you're into it or not. So hope to see you there.
You know, for all of the harnesses that I've developed and worked with, I explicitly tell it that it needs to maintain the memory in the harness. And it always makes another call back to like my core Claude settings. I think it's probably true. Maybe it's the case that essentially it tries to store memory in a general area as opposed to, specific projects or directories.
Right. And so I wonder if those memories are also synced to their servers or something. Probably.
I can only imagine. I need to take a bath thinking about it.
We'd have to check the source code. And then what's down here? Phase 1, orient. Phase 2, gather signal. Phase 3, consolidate. Phase 4, prune and index. That's it. That's the basic memory system. Let me share this tab now. What is potentially concerning in this story? First, the reverse engineering of the permission system. The code reveals detail how the security model of Claude Code works, including the bypass permissions mode and the approval logic for each tool. An attacker who understands this architecture can craft more sophisticated prompts or configurations to try to bypass the guardrails. So this is similar to what we saw in the early days of OpenClaw or ClaudeBot, right? Where people are like, oh, look how it, we can easily inject prompts in there. And that's why we were looking at like a cesspool on, what was it? The ClaudeBot skills website early on. I don't know what the story is with that these days. I don't let my bots install their own skills. Second, the complete system prompt is in the code. Oh, okay. This gives anyone full access to the instructions that govern the model's behavior inside Claude Code, including the security rules, restrictions, and containment mechanisms. It's the same logic as when you extract a chatbot system prompt via prompt injection, except now no technique is needed anymore. So Pliny the Liberator has been rendered irrelevant for the Claude Code system prompt, I guess. Practice, anyone wants to jailbreak it. In agent mode, now is a complete map of what to avoid and what to exploit. So I think that's going to be fascinating as well to see the jailbreaks that come out of it, There's been a few topics more along the chatbot lines that I've wanted to explore that do require a bit of a jailbreak to, really access the full unrestricted intelligence without the censorship of these models. And I'm not much of like a hacker type, so I'm not sure what Claude Code was ever like restricting people to, like, oh, like you can't build that or something. I don't know. Didn't those Mexican hackers or something create something to get everyone in the government's data or something? I don't remember.
I think that this is healthy. I love the idea of unrestricted access to these models, or at least not putting a layer between me and the model and telling me what I can and can't do. I'm interested to see these jailbreaks.
Yeah, and then you use something like Venice. If you can use something like Venice with the jailbreak, then you're anonymized, so it doesn't know it's you asking these questions. Final last little bit of privacy there, or it's like at least to get full unrestricted access, right? Is it still knows it's you doing the jailbreak and all. And that always made me uncomfortable. I'm like, I don't know if I want them to know I'm doing the jailbreak and then asking all these controversial questions or something. I don't want that in their databases. Axe, I see your question here. As a solopreneur fully dependent on Claude Code, what's my exit strategy if Anthropic changes the pricing or kills the product, since I can't fork it or self-host it? That's a really good question, and something I also wanted to explore today if we have time. Like, what does it mean to actually install Claude Code, the Python version or the Rust version, And can we do that with any provider now? Can we do that with Venice, for example? Can we do that with OpenAI models and then just run the harness that way? Because I know there was a Claude Code router repo that came out where you could use Claude Code with other things. It basically just was a router. It wasn't actually infrastructure that you could just tag in. So that's a good question. I think we should explore that more in a little bit here because I'm also curious. Third, the telemetry. The code confirms that Anthropic sends events to Datadog. Ooh, with metadata such as model use, session ID, client type, platform, subscription type, whether the user is an Anthropic employee, remote repository hash, and organization information. It doesn't send code or file paths, but the exact extent of what is collected is now transparent for anyone to audit, and this will inevitably generate privacy debates. So that's, I think, a huge win to just generate privacy debates, right? And just to have that discussion. I know Claude is one of the few big, or Anthropic rather, Claude desktop, you can go into incognito mode. Obviously, we can't verify that it is incognito mode, but they claim all your results. That's zero data retention when you're chatting there in incognito mode. So that's cool if it's real, but we can't verify it. But now Claude desktop wasn't the code that was leaked. It was Claude Code. But once again, this will inevitably generate privacy debates. This also means that you could strip the code of that now. So you can run Claude Code without it sending data to Anthropic. That's pretty cool. Fourth, the internal infrastructure becomes visible. Session endpoints, the JWT logic for the bridge with IDEs, the WebSocket structure, the feature flags. None of this compromises user data, but it gives a technical adversary a deep understanding of the platform's attack surface. Okay. Anthropic will probably rotate client-side keys as a precaution. Telemetry can be disabled. For Anthropic, the damage is real. The code is the crown jewel of a company that sells proprietary software, and the leak via source map on NPM is a build process error that borders on amateurism, especially for a company valued in tens of billions. In addition to the exposed intellectual property, competitors can study the agent architecture, the tool system, prompt engineering, and the feature flags and A/B testing infrastructure. In simpler words, heads will roll. Interesting. Yeah, so once again, I mean, I still see this as a net win for the world. Granted, they're going to do what they will and maybe rewrite it or whatever. And I think their big business model here is, oh, wait a minute. It doesn't send code or file paths. It sends code outside of data logging. The LLM is not client side, so to respond to code, it needs to consume it first. Well, yeah, anything going to the LLM has to be consumed. So yeah, and then this person, how will they recover from the impact of this leak? Honestly, their models and their subsidization of tokens. I think that's their real business model here, you know? Like, come on. We're Claude Max subscription, you're getting all these tokens for $200 a month. You know, I don't know how long we're going to get that deal. And that's to Axel's question as well. Like, how long will these tokens be subsidized? I don't think Anthropic will really like lose out on revenue. I mean, who's offering tokens cheaper than that? You know, it's like maybe using Venice DM token. Okay, fine. But you're still looking at a huge upfront investment there. And it still doesn't really compare to a $200 a month plan. So from a business perspective, here I am with my Venice clothing on. Yeah, from a business perspective, I just don't see how it will, I don't know. Maybe I don't know enough. What do you think?
The fact that this token subsidization, I think that is, I mean, that's on my mind a lot, because at some point, can you lose billions of dollars and it never ends? At some point, how is this all getting funded? And is the consumer going to pay a price? And when the consumer pays a price, what is that price? And once we've gotten locked into how much can be done with this and the things that you can do, suddenly it's like, well, it's not $200 a month, it's $2,000 a month. And so is the average solopreneur, small team, going to be priced out of the market? And then what are the alternatives at that point? And do all of these other models, especially the cheap ones from China, do they end up playing a bigger role? Or is that why the tokens will continue to be subsidized to keep, you know, the Chinese models out of the market? I don't know. Those are just some thoughts I was having, because it does affect a solopreneur if suddenly the pricing goes through the roof, because they're just not going to subsidize it to the same extent.
Not at all. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Anthropic's counting on, I don't know what you call it, but like Kleenex. Like we just call Kleenex, call tissues Kleenex because they were like the first ones that were real popular. They were everywhere. And I think to get users subsidize their access is I think it's a formula that we've seen a lot. We saw it during the dot-com boom when everything online was free or super cheap. Go look at Uber prices when they first came out versus what they seem to be now. Doesn't seem to be very economical anymore. They get you hooked and then they change it on you. I think that Anthropic's case is maybe a little bit different in the sense that technology is increasing. This knowledge is a little bit more democratized. And yes, Claude Code, while proprietary, helps, I'm sure, Anthropic in a lot of ways with a leg up on the competition. But yeah, I think getting you hooked, the first hit's always free. So let's go.
But then meanwhile, on the other side of that Uber argument, right? And maybe this is partly what you mean, but like, you know how the conversation always goes, the cost of a token is always going to approach zero, right? Like the cost per token is just getting cheaper and cheaper. You can approach that from different ways, whether it's the subsidization or whether it's simply, I don't know how the technology works enough, like more efficient models or something to actually able, do more with tokens, or even with something like Gemma 4, where it's like just a really good model that you might be able to run at home on a GPU. So then all your cost is just that GPU. And then you have these tokens at home and these, smaller models get better and better and better. Or, probably a combination of all these things. You have a couple GPUs at home, but then you also, you have your Anthropic API account for when you need it. Because the Anthropic API itself is not cheap. It's, probably properly priced. You know what I mean? Like those Sonnet and Opus are great models, but you pay for them. That's why the Claude Max subscription is great. But they're making so much money off those subscriptions. And then meanwhile, they're charging so much for their API. I wonder, are they profitable? I mean, they're making billions. Like, I wonder what their expenses are. Are they a public company? Is it possible to actually see any of that?
I don't know if Anthropic is public, actually. Just read OpenAI has made their filing to go public.
So now I'm just wondering if we should try to install Claude Code. And I actually have a little device for this. I should go plug it in, actually. I was thinking maybe for the second part of this, we can try to run it. How does that sound?
Sure. Yeah, let's go Venice, a Venice version of Claude Code.
Right. All right. So this is the ZimaBoard. It will be my first ever sponsored video on YouTube. So the ZimaBoard is this little thing. It's got 16 gigs of RAM. And it literally, the box it comes in is also like the box you can use to like hold it with some SSDs. So mine looks like this right now. It's got 2 SSDs attached. It's got a few gigs of RAM. And it comes with this Zima OS, which also has an app. It's not open source, which is a bit of a bummer. You can install anything on this board. You can install Linux, you can install whatever. So there's that option at least. So here is inside Zima OS. And you can see we have an app store. I can install OpenClaw. I already have it installed. This is kind of cool too. Nora. I'd never heard of this, but it's basically just a local RAG. So it's just an app for having a knowledge base that's all retrieval augmented generation, which I wanted to mess around with locally, which would be kind of cool. And then meanwhile, you can install all these different open source apps. So Transmission for torrents, Jellyfin for personal media, Home Assistant for your smart devices, Nextcloud, like Google Drive, N8N. There's a ton of open source apps here, including some AI stuff. So you can just have a local interface for your models. Olama is on here as well. And so this is just, a device you keep on at all times, and it's just doing things for you. I was actually having a Bitcoin node sync here. That's what this Compose is. There's no interface. And then what I do, I'm not using their app thing. In dev mode, I can connect to the terminal. Inside the terminal, I just run open code and say, okay, install a Bitcoin node. And if something's wrong, I just have frontier model like Opus. A GLM5 was doing well as well, but I just have a model inside of Zima. Oh, you can't see this, sorry. Here it is. This is inside the terminal. So now, if you see, I just run open code inside the ZimaBoard, and I have an AI could just do things for me, troubleshoot, solve. This to me, as someone who's tried to run Bitcoin nodes for years and just always had issues, This is like one of the top use cases of AI to help you run your server, your local home server. It's like incredibly convenient to just have an AI system administrator. Here we are, and actually that's probably what I'm going to use to install this, because obviously we don't have the open source Claude Code in the App Store. So I guess I'll come to this tab. Okay, so let's take a look here. Claude Code parity, is this the one we want? Or do we want to do the other one? What does parity mean?
Well, I guess they're saying this is the one that has the same features. So let's go.
As Claude Code.
As Claude Code.
Look, this one has 161,000 stars. This one has 4.8. So maybe we just use this one.
Always want to party with the popular ones. Let's go.
I guess. So this one is Rust, not Python. Is that it? That's what I am having trouble figuring out here. Python workspace overview. Here's what we'll do. Let's copy that. Let's go over to open code and let's switch. Let's see how this goes with an open source model. I normally wouldn't do this, but I think this is going to be straightforward enough. Let's use GLM5 and let's say we want to install this here on the ZimaBoard. Let's make a plan. Ask me any questions you might have for clarity. And then I'll paste the repo there. And that's generally what I do all the time now. I just tell open code to do it. That could be Claude Code, right? Could be Claw. What do they call it? Claw Code? God.
I enjoy all the Decapod humor, so I'm here for it.
I can see this is Claude Code, an AI code agent assistant harness with both Python and Rust. Okay, so there's both. Rust recommended. Okay, we're doing Rust. What will you use Claude Code for? Claude Code, local AI coding assistant, API integration only, just exploring. Let's do that. Do you have API keys ready for LLM providers? Yes, obviously. Yeah, okay, well, so far, GLM5 is pulling its weight. Or they're simple for the LLMs, right? For open source ones, they can do it. But when it gets like agentically complicated, I made up that adverb, that's when I'll use Opus. But what if it's just a quick install or something, I think GLM or Kimi 2.5 or 2.7, Minimax, those lately do a pretty good job. All available on Venice. I think having the unified API key is just so convenient, because then if this doesn't work, but we want to stay open source and private, we just switch over to Kimi or we switch over to Minimax. So, all right, I can execute these steps when you give the go ahead. Let's see. Step 1, install Rust toolchain. 2, source environment, source home cargo, clone repo, build release, configure API keys. All right. Interesting. It's still thinking after it asked me to proceed. Yeah, no, this looks like some freaking open source model fuck up. Any questions? Any questions?
This looks free. Yeah.
This looks free. It's not, but gosh, what is it doing? Yes, good. Why is that queued? Oh, got to get out of plan mode. This is why I want to use the Claude Code harness, because it knows to get out of plan mode when it's time.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot better interfaces real soon, too. And
thanks to this leak.
Exactly. Jordan, did you share the specs of your device?
I did. I can do it again. Well, I shared how much RAM. So there's 16 gigs of RAM. And then I have 2 1 terabyte SSDs attached. I don't think there's a lot of storage by default. It looks like there's 50 gigs of storage by default. But then you plug in the SSDs. It also comes with a rack. Let me go get it. For SATA drives. This is the rack for the SATA drives, which I haven't gotten connected because they're formatted for Mac OS and I have data on them that I want to not lose. And I don't have anything else to read them with on Mac OS till I get back to Civilization. And then it allows you to combine disks using RAID as well. So I had actually never done that before, and I did that with the 2 drives, but I only had 1 terabyte available, even though it was 2 terabytes, and that just means it's like backing it up. So I think with 3 drives, I would have like 2 terabytes or something, but there's not enough ports for 3 drives. So But it makes it's super modular. We go to the Zima site again. Yeah, see here on the top, you can actually plug a GPU into that. So that's a PCIe slot. You can plug in a GPU for local inference. I took my GPU out of my main machine because I have 16 gigs of NVRAM or VRAM. And I was like, cool, I'm going to have a local GPU here. I tried to take off like the front, I don't know what it's called, but like when you have it in an actual case, it has the, the thing to latch it on to the back of the case. I tried to take that off. It's not supposed to come off. And I think I fucked it up because then I found out I couldn't use it with this without an enclosure because it's not going to give the GPU enough power. I put it back into my machine and it won't read it. So I think I broke my GPU trying to get that going, which is a big bummer.
Yeah, that is a bummer because they're not cheap.
Yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I was looking, to be honest, this one I bought, it's still the same price today as it was when I bought it. But I also don't know if it's a great GPU. Maybe, I mean, sounds like a good GPU and it looks like a good GPU, but I could never, at least on Linux and Mac, I tried to use it on Linux and Mac with Olama and it was never good. I was never impressed with the result. I'm more impressed with my Mac M3 Max, Oh yeah, it is getting to that point. Like we were talking about it a few weeks ago. You said you got a new Mac M5, right? And I'm just looking at it like maybe it is a good move to just get a really powerful laptop for your local LLMs. Maybe it's almost a better move than getting all these GPUs. Although I like the fact that I can swap a GPU from this machine to that machine or use it for this. But at the same time,
Yeah, I needed, mine's still not powerful enough, even though it's the M5 Max and 36 gig of RAM. I think I needed like the 128 plus, or maybe 128's the max. I don't know.
I think there's the M3 or M4 Ultra now, which you can go up to 256. I was looking at it recently, but yeah, I mean, it starts to add up, like.
Yeah, I can't remember the company, but I saw there was a Kickstarter of somebody having like an offline LLM, basically like a Zima OS, but something with a bunch of graphic memory like built into the board. Just hook it up USB to your computer, and then you use it there.
That's cool.
It seemed like it was still pretty.
Oh, tiny? Was it tiny?
It might have been tiny.
Yeah, I saw that too. I don't know. It kind of looks scammy to me.
Yeah, for sure. But I think having seen that and knowing, Microsoft has a different framework that they are advertising now is going to be very efficient with large models.
I know.
Probably in the next year or so, I bet we'll see some. Yeah. I think we'll see some devices that are affordable and performant.
Yeah. No, I think like you said,
interesting and novel hardware part of the market too with AI. It has the potential to empower people, single individuals, to bring real projects to life that maybe in the past would require coordination and specialized knowledge, time, money, investment.
Years of education.
Years of education, yeah. As opposed to just kind of having an idea and being able to kind of see it go forward.
And I think that's what's just cool. I mean, even like with this ZimaBoard, I was so excited when they messaged me with the sponsorship opportunity because I love messing around with little gizmos like this and Raspberry Pis. But before AI, I wasn't able to really it required just way too much research to figure out how to fix things. Like I mentioned earlier with Bitcoin nodes, like something would happen and a chain state file would get corrupted or whatever, and it would just have to start over and sync for a week to get the blockchain data again. When now I can actually just go in there and I don't need the user interface anymore. Whereas before, a whole day of debugging, of Googling, hey, what's this error? And Stack Overflow, GitHub issues, just the whole thing. And maybe I'd make a little progress, and I would learn something about the command line along the way. But the juice was not worth the squeeze. And I never really got to excel or really build some cool stuff as I wanted to. But now, you can buy little robots on Amazon and you can program them. And you can give them AI and you can teach them how to use vision and do things. And I'm like, this is it. And these little boxes are fun, the servers, but this goes into everything, right? And I think this is like, for me, it started with vibe coding and building directories and, building websites, whatever, building a business, and all that's cool. But I think, at least for me, the next phase is like, okay, let's play with the hardware now and let's use AI. Because this was what was missing for me. To do hardware, like my uncle makes robots. He knows how to do all that. He's like old school robotics. But now I feel like with the AI, it knows that knowledge to do it. And then I can just be the orchestrator, like everything, right? It's like AI is allowing us to be the strategist, to make the plans. And now, cool, we can do what we want. So I definitely feel more empowered than ever before to do cool things.
Agree. In fact, it's almost too much, to be honest. Because my mind is now constantly seeing different opportunities and then wanting to work to try to execute on them, which is a problem, one, because you need to kind of focus on something. But also, when you don't have enough time, you have to decide where you're going to spend your time. So something always suffers. And
right.
Yep.
Something always suffers. On a personal note, I've been recognizing that from a different perspective, because we're about to move in like 5 days, and it's just been a zoo. And then there's like emotions involved. Like, we have a relationship with this place. And I've just been spending more time away from the computer and then spending time with the family. And I'm just realizing, like, man, going so hardcore into AI the last year, I've really like been like unable to relax. I noticed this just in the last week, 10 days of just like stepping away from my 8 hours a day on the computer. I'm like, cool, I can like live in the real world again. It feels like, wow, I feel like I've just been so attached to the AI. It's weird because technology does it anyway, right? Whatever about humans and our creativity, it attracts us because we like to build, we like to create. I think that's what we're here for, is to create things. And technology can just be so addicting because it enables us to do this stuff to our heart's desire. Like, maybe not everyone wants to use computers, but I'm sure most people probably have a cool thing that they would enjoy doing on a computer, even if they're not computer people. Even if you're just an artist and you have pen to paper or you paint, I feel like there's probably something cool you would want to create if you knew you could on a computer. So anyway, now with AI, it's like all the more addicting. And I don't know, I don't see a lot of commentary on this. There's a few people I follow that talk about it on Twitter, like kind of stepping away from the machine life. And they have a similar perspective on me, because it's like, yes, this stuff is amazing, but still, like, it becomes a spiritual conversation here when we start talking about merging our consciousness with technology. And I'm not trying to get cliche about that, but for me, it's become a real reality. I've avoided that conversation because I'm like, nah, not me. I'm always going to be going to the beach and, enjoying my human life. But, I'm just starting to see it more and more. And if I'm experiencing it, I imagine someone that lives in a city in an apartment, right? And it doesn't have a life with a lot of nature in it, for example. I think nature is the last thing. It's like keeping me remembering that I have a body and not just becoming an AI zombie. So the merging of our consciousness with technology is really being manifest in AI, I think. And so it's an interesting time to explore that and what it means for us.
I think that's worthy. I think that's worthy of another episode.
I know, right? Well, it's funny because it's like, oh, good little philosophical conversation to have while we wait for the agent to build the release binary with cargo on Docker.
Well, the next month's version of Probably Fine is actually going to focus on artisanal ship and returning back to the Earth, and a mix of technology with that.
That's your magazine.
Yeah.
I didn't have a chance to read it. I just opened it up. All my kids were climbing on me. We should open that up. Do you want to share your screen real quick?
Yeah. And so obviously, I don't think it's any surprise, but this was all generated using AI and really built a harness to be like an e-zine manager and publisher. Really had to kind of massage it to be able to get even this far out of it. But it's been a good exercise. I've been able to develop character canons for the look and the feel of the magazine. I have like 29 or 20 some different characters. Should show up more than once here in the future. Trying to get the voicing correct. What's interesting, and I think I'm going to do some experimenting with using some of the Venice unmoderated models, but it seems to kind of always want to take the voice into one direction. And so I've been massaging it a lot, trying to get the voice, because I read through and I say, that's not exactly the feel. You talk it into it, you give us some examples, and it fixes one line. And a couple lines later, it kind of drifts back to a, for me in particular, at least, where it's like, okay, hey, you have to have like these large government international bodies regulating all of this stuff. And I'm like, no, this isn't the direction that I want to take. And okay, we'll back down that perspective on. But it always just kind of sneaks it back in there, which was kind of interesting. The idea that I have here as far as to take it forward is that, you can imagine like Mad Magazine or National Lampoons back in the day, where you kind of have a cover piece, and then of course inside of it you have additional articles, and you actually have the actual magazine. And so this was kind of the first run here, where it's just the cover sheet with, I think I have 9 different articles or 10 different articles set up.
That really reminds me, especially that Luxembourg bit. Have you ever read this book? It's called Delta V by Daniel Suarez. And basically, a charismatic billionaire recruits a team of adventurers to launch the first deep space mining operation. And he goes against all the governments. They make a Luxembourg corporation to do it. Because that's where they're able to get the funding, because there's the laws. And it's actually a really great science fiction. It's 2 books, actually. And it's like he really goes into the science of it. So I know this is just the moon here, but he talks about they go all the way to some, far off asteroid, and getting the timing right, because it takes like months, to get all the way, and they have to like slingshot the spaceship, and then they run out of fuel or whatever. So they have to like time it just right to get back into the atmosphere. And all of it is like scientifically, physically sound.
Sure.
And so really fascinating book. But yeah, from a geopolitical perspective, they explore kind of exactly this that you talk about here, is like, hey, there's no rules up in space.
That's right.
So you got all these articles that were generated as well with it. Cool.
Yeah, developed some skills for the harness that would actually go out and scout. And so it uses Apify to basically go out and scout for stories. And then, of course, the harness is configured to say, okay, don't ever, specifically for mainstream sources, it's never to believe a mainstream source. It's always to track down the original source and then report back the original source. And then, of course, it does this. OpenClaw just occasionally will ping out to it and say, hey, do your scout. And it'll go out, and then it creates linear tickets for each of the ideas, and then categorizes them into a pillar. So we have different pillars depending on whatever you want to focus on in the magazine. The magazine has, technology, artisanalship, et cetera, like 7 different pillars.
So why linear instead of just making some markdown file locally?
Yeah, really it was just to experiment with linear. We use linear at the company that I work, which is interesting. But I also thought that maybe having the ideas and whatnot in an external source would allow me to just be more flexible from an automation standpoint. But
Gotcha.
What I'm starting to learn is, it's funny you asked that, because I asked myself that exact question this morning, because that's kind of where it started, because I have to keep prompting it to do certain things sometimes, such as update the tickets, let's go ahead and close them, stuff like that. If the tokens aren't cheap, and I think keeping them in the markdown file makes it so that every time it reads, it has to read everything, and then it sorts it. And I think you kind of get some of that for free with the ticketing tools like Jira or GitHub's issue tracker, and then, of course, linear.
Yeah, that makes sense. I always try to just like not use third-party services if I don't have to, but it's a good point about the tokens.
Yeah, I mean, I could, something like the ZimaCube, you could set up an open source. Let's get real, bub. You could just build one with Claude Code, and then you could just reference it, right? Or just have a harness that does it for you.
There's probably one in here.
Yeah, I bet there is.
Let's see here. What's it called? Linear?
Yeah, but if you just look for like bug tracking, just look for bug tracking. That's all you need.
Ron, what was the address of that zine?
Oh, it's probably fine.570 N3R
Would Asana be a, well, I don't know. I found this with a quick Google search, but you're right. It'd be easier to just vibe code it.
But yeah, I think something like Asana, I think it's more of a like a project management piece, which is fine. I mean, all you need is an ability to to generate something that can be referenced remotely, be able to have some notes, and that's really it. So
yeah, and then I mean, you can even put Claude Code on the ZimaBoard to just do it right there. Like I have this doing here, though it's having problems. You know what I realized is Anthropic and OpenAI, the API specs are not compatible. And originally I asked like, hey, is this going to work? And I don't know. Yeah. So it's actually changing the code to work with OpenAI so it can work with Venice. So I can't guarantee we're going to get success here. I probably should have just put in an Anthropic API key, but for me, that defeats the purpose. You know what I mean? Okay, so I can strip it of sending the metadata, but then Anthropic still gets all my requests and all that. Like that defeats the purpose. So this is not something I would generally have an open source model do. And the irony of using Opus to fix Claude Code to use an OpenAI compatible API, provider. Let's see if it works though. It's going. Yeah, patching code to support Venice. So what did you think the next edition, would you say? It would be something in the lines of the consciousness we just talked about?
Yeah, like returning to the earth, touching grass, the intersection, I guess maybe of technology and artisanalship. Like we have these little robots on grids that will zap with lasers, stuff that grows in between your crops. So you don't actually have to pick every single one of these out. I could imagine having my Tesla robot and it's like hauling a log for me. I'm just like, come on, let's go. Stuff like that. And, we've spoken before about, kind of where I hope all of this abundance of technology. And I think that on the horizon, we're going to have so much energy and that we're not going to know what to do with it. I don't know if we are going to get it. Someone's going to get it, but I think it's going to be like a parallel with like this Claude Code, where once the cat's out of the bag, it's going to be hard to keep it in there. And I think once people figure out how to get large amounts of energy, specifically electricity, without nuclear reactions and big huge steam turbines and coal, I think it's going to make some of this technology more possible. And hopefully the culture will shift to a culture of putting as a priority the doing things with your hands and staying grounded, touching grass.
Yeah.
Hunt,
we talked about the Brian Remmel 5,000 days thing a few days ago, right? Yeah. And I think that's kind of, I don't know if he does the touching grass thing with it, but it's like, yeah, you're going to have more free time. And the question is, what do you do with that?
I know what
do you think that energy is going to come from those like local nuclear fission generators you can have at your house, or where do you think all that energy is going to come from?
No, we'll probably never get them at our house, but I think more local.
Adam Curry already has one.
Well, he has. What does he have? He just has a generator. Yeah, but
it's nuclear.
Nuclear.
Yeah, it's like a nuclear fission generator. Like he has it. I don't know how big it might be. Pretty big, but he has it on his property. He said last I remember.
Huh. I didn't know that. Okay. Interesting.
I could be wrong. Maybe he was just talking about
maybe he's joking around. I didn't.
Maybe he's joking. Maybe he's talking about.
He does have I know he does have a generator at his house. And
I have a generator at my house. I mean,
he's fully. I know he's fully. He can be off grid, if he wanted or had to. I guess.
You guys ready to see this?
Sure.
See it.
It says it did it. This was all done with GLM5, people. Local open source model. Not local, but open source model. Okay, so first I have to add that. All right, so let's do this. Claw model. Okay, that. Okay, so we'll copy this. What was it? Data.bashrc. Does that look right?
$, or there you go.
Uh-oh. Damn it. Oh, yeah, I had it. Okay, so that was it. All right, so hopefully that worked. All right, so now we do this. So I'm going to run Gemma 4. Uh-oh. It copied the wrong things. Model, Google, Gemma 431B IT. And this is through Venice. Oh, let's see. Does this work? All right, so now I got to just figure out that problem. Quick debugging. session.
Yeah, well, it said read only. Maybe root isn't readable or writable.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Hopefully it's an easy fix.
Just got the directory wherever it installed it.
It's funny too how these Chinese models have these basic grammar errors, like there's no space between let me fix this, you know? Home equals data.
I kind of deserve it because when I talk to AI, I just use all types of grammar mistakes. I turn into a Luddite trying to think of the words to say when I should just more freely.
Assuming it'll figure out what you mean.
Yeah.
Oh, I was doxing my API key here.
I'll try not to remember it.
All right. Oh, there it is again. I can't help but wonder how much faster and if it would have worked with a one shot if I just used Opus from the get-go. So I got to use data, bin, Claude, Venice, model. All right, here we go. Let's try this out. Why won't this copy? Paste. Okay. Hey, Claude Code. Using Gemma 4. Permissions, danger, full access. Great. Okay. What can you help me with? Where do we begin? What should we do, Ron? Oh, see, look, it's saving the .jsonl file, the session, just like we saw in the memory. Wow. I don't know if this is a Google Gemma thing or a Claude Code thing, but it's been thinking a while. What if we use, all right, let's use Claude Sonnet 4.6, yeah? Oh, it's still not using Venice for that, even though I told it to. Let's try GPT-4 Mini, 5.4 Mini. All right. What can we say? Write a script that shows me all the text models available via Venice API. Oh, all right. We got more work to do. Yeah, we'll come back to this on Tuesday, guys. So hopefully I'll have something cool. But yeah, so Claude Code. It feels weird not using it in an IDE. That's one thing I'm realizing now. Like, even if I were just to use this here inside the ZimaBoard, right? Is like, why isn't my Bitcoin node syncing? It's still going to have that error there, right?
Yeah.
Just back to open code. So essentially I could use it instead of open code, right? Okay, guys. So I don't want to be too anticlimactic for the end of this video if you've watched this far, but some time has passed since we recorded that. I've been super busy moving and stuff. And Anthropic has been doing the DMCA stuff. They have been taking down the Claude Code leak. But from what I understand, they're doing this through the guise of not just DMCA, but also something to do with the terms of service. So if you're using Claude Code, part of the terms of service is you can't like duplicate it or whatever. So everything I created is kind of like not supposed to be online anymore. But that said, it is still kind of online, and I do have a repo for this. It's not very good. So what I tried to do here is I took the leak that you just watched everything, and I made it so I can just type in Claude, and boom, it launches Claude Code Venice Edition. So my idea was to make it so Claude Code automatically can use everything from Venice. And Venice has image generation, video generation, text to speech, audio, music, like it has all this stuff. So I thought that would be cool if just Claude Code could just do that automatically. You don't need skills or anything like that. So that's what I created. But then I just kind of stopped, and the whole project kind of went on the back burner. Once again, I'm moving, but then also I found out that like Anthropic is trying to take these down, and the last thing I really want to do is like cause problems here. So let's switch models to, I don't know, Claude Sonnet 4.6, and it worked. And then we go like create a new file explaining what Claude Code Venice is all about. Let's see if it works. It's connecting to the Venice API. Yeah, so this is using the Venice API as well. It's not using Claude Code at all. You probably also heard, since we recorded that podcast, you can't use Claude Code anymore with third-party harnesses. Mega annoying. But that's okay, because Claude Code Venice Edition is all Venice. So it's actually like not even really Claude Code at all anymore, except that it started there. I'm also trying to add a heartbeat into this, like OpenClaw. So I'm kind of just trying to turn it into its own thing. I got to figure out how to make it like copyright friendly so I don't get a DMCA takedown. But yeah, we have a lot going on here. And this is actually reading from the workspace. In this workspace, I have all these agents and commands. This is my content and lesson creation workspace. So it might not be the best place to show you, but like if I were to start a new window, let's start a new folder, Claude Code Closer. All right, so we're in a new folder here, and I'll run Claude Code. Okay, create a new MD file that explains everything about Claude Code U. Let's see how it does. Now, we'll see right away, got to approve a tool call, making a sandbox, and we have the .claw folder, the JSON-L file. So this is like the session history here, and we have my prompt, a little record, Claude Code explain.md. So it works. It's doing the job. And this is with GLM 4.7. This is an open source model. It's much cheaper than the Claude models. My real question here, and I'll leave you with this, is how much of the Claude Code framework, how much of it is the Claude code, and how much of it is the LLM, Opus, Sonnet, Haiku even. And I think this is kind of what my experiment is meant to explore, is how good can an open source model be with a really good harness, a good framework that's from the code that was leaked. So yeah, this is really interesting to me. I'll continue to mess around with this. If you want to join us next time, you saw Ron and I chatting. There were a few others there that weren't really shown in this video, but come join the AI Captains. We do calls twice a week. We try to record them at least once a week, our little masterminds, and we talk about this stuff, and we just discuss what it is to be part of this huge transition into the age of AI, the age of AI disruption and the revolution here. So thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments what you thought of this episode. I know this is kind of new and kind of different than what we normally do. So subscribe if you want more. And if you're new to my channel, this is not a normal video. So subscribe for more tutorials. See you in the next video.